Okay. Hello, everyone. Stand up. Stand up. It's late in the day. I know you've been here listening to some great information today, and I just got here, so I just want everybody to stand up and stretch a little bit. Take tip toes, get the blood flowing so that you're ready to receive, hopefully, what I can put out as some good information. All right, go ahead and have a seat, okay? So I'm Greg McIntyre. I'm an attorney in North Carolina. I'm an elder law attorney, and I'm really excited, especially now that I see the audience that I'm presenting to today. There's not a lot of times that I get to really talk so much about my passion, especially pretty deep down the rabbit hole of Medicaid crisis planning. Medicaid crisis planning, or Medicaid planning for a Medicaid situation where you need long-term or extended care. They're calling it different things these days, and I'll call it long-term care. You'll hear it called by insurance people now extended care, which is essentially in-home assisted living or nursing home care. And how do we pay for it? And that is something that I absolutely love to do, is to help individuals hold on to and fight for their hard-earned money and property while also qualifying for health care benefits, either through the Medicaid route or through the veterans pension route. A lot of times that's a great way to go also. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. I'm a certified attorney through the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. I also am an elder law attorney who's a member of a national group of elder law attorneys called Elder Council. So it's not just me standing up here. I have a very deep bench of thousands of other attorneys around the country where I will help them field questions and they'll help me if there's something that we haven't seen before. And every once in a while there's a situation we haven't seen before. So thank you for being here today. Thank you. And I want questions from you guys as we go along as well. So I have the state of emergency up there. Why do I call it Medicaid crisis planning? Why is it a state of emergency? Can anybody tell me? Does anyone know what I mean by that? Yes, ma'am. Time's running out? Funds running out. Yeah, maybe time and funds are running out. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I was going to say money. No.
Money. Yeah, money. I mean, sometimes even financial planners, good ones that I work with, their only choice, they think, is to ride that money into the ground. And that's great. I applaud saving to pay for private pay. I would love for everyone to be able to be set up to pay for private pay. But the truth is, in reality, they're not. And they're never going to be under current rules. And with long-term care insurance, that's pre-existing conditions. If you have one, you don't qualify for that. The older you get, you don't qualify for that. There are hybrid type plans and policies that are pretty neat now, where you can take a certain amount of money and they'll pay off, say, 5 times as much as you set aside. But still, a lot of people don't have, I call long-term care insurance for the most part the unicorn, because it's rare, because not a lot of people have it. So I see families all the time that come to me and say, upset. My husband and I have worked our whole life for our retirement. And now my husband, because of a stroke, because of a health care problem, because of something that's going on, because of Alzheimer's, dementia, early onset especially, it's eating up everything we have at a very fast pace. I don't know what I'm going to do. And the Medicaid rules allow for a maximum of $119,220 to be kept in a healthy spouse's name. But in the reality, over, if someone has 20, 30 years, healthy years to live, that's not a lot of money. So what do they do? What does she do? Well, we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And we can talk about Plan Ahead as well. That's just my name and my firm. So the why. This is my why. This is Worth McIntyre. I think I might have a little bit of the chin there. That's me a few years back. Worth lived to be about 99. and assisted living. Now, I used to do a lot of different areas of law. I love doing jury trials, okay? But I narrowed it down over time to just doing elder law. That's it. That's all I do, okay? This is one of the reasons why. And you'll read about it if you choose to read the book that I gave you. The first chapter, Saving the Farm, okay? Worth was in assisted living for about 14 years. It took everything that he was worth, pun intended. And the farm's gone. There's nothing left. And, you know, he had great care where he was in assisted living. And we love that place. I still recommend that facility all the time. But in truth, it just took everything you had, every dime you ever made. So the reality is the last few years of our life now, many times it spins down everything we work for and save for our entire lives. And then, instead of the farm or the house, and the farm is a metaphor. The farm might be your home on an acre of land. The farm might be literally a family farm. The farm might be your retirement, your IRA, your 401k. It's your hard-earned money and property. And he lost all of it. If he would have had someone like me around, I could have saved his house with a ladybird deed right off the bat. I could have gone in and seen what money there was at the time that we could protect. And I could have really saved most of the hard-earned money and property. And then either activate, hopefully an insurance agent would have gotten to him earlier too and tried to help him, right, with some long-term care insurance. But in an emergency, I could have helped him save most everything, or as much as possible, and still have comparable care. Because he ended up spending everything out and being on Medicaid to pay for health care anyway, right? And then many times people lose their homes and other properties, everything they work for, to be eligible to pay for care. So planning ahead, by the way, you know, we could have used things like trust, irrevocable trust, Medicaid Asset Protection Trust. And we can talk about those as well. So who will need care? You know this better than I do, I guarantee it. 70% of people, according to a 2005 U.S. Health and Human Services, Department of Health and Human Services report, 70% of people over 65 right now will need some type of care. Either in-home, assisted living, or nursing home care. Those are huge odds. Those are huge odds. If I told you that there was a 70% chance of rain when we walked out of this building, how about when we were coming to work today? It's better. Would you have brought an umbrella maybe? You'd have dressed for rain? You'd have thought about it, right? So there's a 70% chance that everyone over 65 right now will need some type of long-term care. So it's something they definitely should think about and plan for. Look backs. Who knows what look back periods are? What is a look back period?
It's the amount of time they look back at your assets when you're applying for benefits.
To pay for long-term care, correct? And it's 5 years for long-term care Medicaid, which pays for nursing home care. It's 3 years for assisted living Medicaid. That's actually called special assistance Medicaid. It pays for assisted living care, okay? So there's 2 separate look-back periods, and there's different qualifications for each level. For nursing home Medicaid, or long-term care Medicaid as it's called, you can't make more income per month than the private pay rate of the facility. There are not a lot of people out there who have income flows of over $5,000 or above, which is going to be comparable to, say, average nursing home facilities, starting around 5 and going up from there. So there's most people, from an income perspective, can qualify for nursing home Medicaid. Now there are asset qualifications as well. But assisted living Medicaid, which is the 3-year look back, is much lower. It's around $11, $15. It went up a few dollars this year per month that you can make. If you're in a memory care unit or a locked unit within assisted living for dementia or Alzheimer's, things like that, so you wouldn't want to wonder, want the person wondering. then it's 15-15, okay? So you can't make more than that. There are also the rules under Special Assistance Medicaid, which is for assisted living, are less kind on how much money you can save and the tools you can use to save it. Although a creative attorney under those rules can generally operate. And you'd be surprised how much you can operate to move things. And again, you have to show social services exactly everything you do in planning, even in emergency, or even in plan ahead situations, in either situation. But the rules really allow for people to save money in property, but people don't know it. They don't know it. I want to get the word out. They do what I call a hang your head spend down, which is, go to social services and just spend all the money down. Maybe do some pre-needs burial planning, right? They might get told about that. But it's not the social worker's job to tell them all the laws and how to navigate those. The social worker is overloaded, at social services with casework, and just trying to get through those cases and make sure everything's done right under the law and the rules. So there are many things you can do to save money and property, even in an emergency situation. Now, look-back periods. I get questions about look-back periods all the time. Does anyone know how they work? Exactly. You had mentioned you knew what they were. Do you know how they work, or why they're there?
You can be penalized for the amount of money that you make or add or property transfers or all that against your eligibility for Medicaid.
Sure. What's your name, sir?
Jeff.
Jeff said you can be penalized for the amount of money basically that you have or that you transfer. What it is you're going to look at under a microscope the last 5 years of account statements for anything you have: IRA, 401k, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, securities, bank accounts, checking, savings, money market. Also, deed transfers. You're going to search the records for all deed transfers within that period as well. And if things were transferred out that don't fit under a Medicaid spend down in those rules, then they have to be put back. Those gifts that are outside, that run afoul of the rules, have to be put back. So the kids have to get the farm back or the house back. And I have that question all the time. And I'm going to ask you, what was your name? Shasta. Shasta, at what age should you give away your home to your kids or your property? Should you sign it out of your name? What age? Early? Why early? So you don't lose it. But you're giving it away, aren't you? Losing it?
I still have it.
I think the answer is never. That's a trick question. Never. I don't know why. I think we've come to a bad point in this country, which was built partially on the right to transfer property from generation to generation, okay? And own property, individual property rights. If we're asking at what age do I need to give away all that I've acquired during my life so I don't lose it? There are ways to keep control of your property. You can do it through trust. That's one way. Or you can do it through deed planning. Deed planning is a simple and inexpensive way to do it. Life estate deeds. Let's take those. If we did a life estate deed for a parent, let's say mom, right? We did a life estate deed for mom. Mom owns and controls the house for the rest of her life. And then, heaven forbid, if she passes, it automatically goes to the grantees we placed on the deed, which are the kids, for instance, maybe the church. Just depends. And as long as it's been in place outside of the look-back period, a traditional life estate deed, then you're fine. It passes outside of the will and probate estate automatically. Heaven forbid mom passes in her sleep. When the kids wake up, it's just theirs. And if you go to apply for Medicaid, they'll say, oh, you had a life estate deed, you did it outside the look-back period. You're great. That property is protected. Could be the home, could be the vacation house, could be a rental, could be farmland in the upper part of the county. And those traditional life estate deeds have been available for use for hundreds of years. Okay? And that way, mom keeps control of the property. many seniors that I meet with, they're very wary about gifting away the property. Some of them come in wanting to get it out of their names, not realizing they can keep it, or at least during their life. A ladybird deed, which you heard me mention earlier, or also an enhanced life estate deed, which I talk about on page 112 in the book that I handed out called Saving the Farm. Now that book that I gave you represents 2.5 years of my life. Every time I wasn't seeing a client or working on a case, I was writing that book. I was interviewing experts from around the country, the likes of Tipa Snow. Does anyone know who that is? All right, amazing woman, okay? And the discussion we have in a transcript of that interview is in that chapter called A Word on Alzheimer's and Dementia. And I just am fascinated by just what's happening in that area, with so many more and more people being diagnosed, and why, and the legal ramifications, and those things are in that book. I talk about life estate deeds. I talk about ladybird deeds. A ladybird deed, and that's my gift to you. I wanted you to have that, okay? We sell a good amount of them. We have a lot of clients who want to read about them or want family members to read about them. We brought a few more. We have probably 5 or 6 more over here. If somebody wants to take another one, please feel free, okay? I just want you to have it because it's a concise way to bring a lot of estate planning and asset protection information into one small book that can be read in a short period of time. And it's like a reference book, so you can see where you want to go and just kind of drill down. A ladybird deed, if we put a ladybird deed on Mom's house, and we recorded it at the Register of Deeds, the next day, heaven forbid, Mom had a stroke and needed long-term care. She went to rehab and she wasn't getting better, and she needed long-term care at a nursing home facility or assisted living, either one. It works on either one. Now that transfer wasn't within the look-back period, the 3-year or 5-year look-back period, correct? Doesn't matter. The policy in North Carolina is that it protects one home, the principal residence, and any contiguous touching property, roads not included, it can be divided by roads. Any property that's touching up to a property value of approximately $550,000. So I've just saved Mom $550,000 worth of property right there. And there are other more advanced strategies to save the other property, even if we're in a pinch. Now that doesn't mean that you should procrastinate or your client should procrastinate. It would be nice to get it out of the way and done ahead of time, okay? But ladybird deeds are meant just to protect the home. And Mom can still enjoy the benefit of Medicaid paying for long-term care, even though she implemented that deed protection within the look-back period. Does anyone have any questions on look-back periods or anything that I just said? Yes. No. In fact, I want to say it's on page 112 there, and I list all of the states at the time that I wrote it 2 years ago that allowed ladybird deeds. Okay? And we allow ladybird deeds by policy. But really, we allow all property law by policy, or the incorporation of the English common law in 1778 by statute. Okay? But there are no statutory deed references necessarily. Okay? It's English common law. But yes, more retirement-friendly states, to address that again, or just to speak to that, Florida, Nevada, they'll have those provisions. And if you expect somebody to sell their house in New York and plop $500,000 in a property down here on the beach, and then they risk losing it because they don't have long-term care insurance, I just don't think it sends a good signal to other states. Georgia, South Carolina do not allow them yet, okay? But it is a retirement-friendly move. We've been using them since about 2012, and they work great. They work amazing. Okay, and social services knows, so they say, McIntyre did my ladybird deed. Here it is. They know that that's off limits. There's no way for them to collect. Where can any lien holder? Let's say, you know what? You owe me money. You don't really. Okay, smile. What's your name? Renee. And then, heaven forbid, one day we're 150 years old and you pass on, and I want to collect my money, okay? How can I collect that money from your estate? How can I do that? How can I collect those money? Well, let's say you have a will. You go down to the courthouse, you give the clerk that will, okay? And then, the family, or maybe even an attorney, has to go publish that in the paper for 4 consecutive weeks in North Carolina, and then wait 90 days from the first day it was published before they can do anything else. Why do they wait that 90 days, and why is it published in the paper? She said to give everybody a chance to say if they're owed money. No, it's to send money into your estate. Send money. No, yes, you're right. It's to see if you owe anybody money, right? Including the state. In fact, there's a proactive duty for the administrator or executor to notify the Department of Health and Human Services now, okay? Because Medicaid's lost out on some of those, windows, right? And it's hard for them to collect. That's where Medicaid can collect. The state's subject to those rules as well. They enter a lien at the clerk's office, right? And then the home, let's say it's passing by will or not. Even if you don't have a will, it's a state administration. This thing bothers me because it rubs up against my tire or something. I must have a static guy. So the state administration is without a will. You got a probate estate that's with a will, or a probate estate administration. The title of the house passes through that estate. And what happens in the house when that happens? It's sold to satisfy a Medicaid lien, if there is one, right? Or any other creditor liens. So a deed passes outside of the estate, okay? Automatically. So that's how that works. It does not go through the estate, okay? Some states are expanded recovery states, so you can go outside of the estate and pull in deed transfers, things like that. North Carolina is not one of them. I hope they stay not one of them. Because it's good for people. Anybody else have any questions on what we went over so far? I'll hit something that you guys probably already know about, but it's extremely important to start here. Foundational planning. What happens if I have that stroke? Or if I have early onset dementia or Alzheimer's? How can I protect my property? Who can sign that deed for me? How can my wife protect my IRA for her benefit too? And she's caring for me, and I'm not really with it. I'm not competent. What if I don't have a general durable power of attorney in place? Does anyone know what that is, by the way? What's a general durable power of attorney? Usually people don't talk about it that way. They usually just say a power of attorney or POA. What is that? Anyone? Yes, ma'am. What's your name? Amy? Amy, what's a general durable power of attorney? That's exactly right. That's very well put. Why is it general? Right, it's not limited, right? It's not limited to just, you know what, you can do this house purchase for me over here because I'm on a cruise overseas in the military, right? That would be a limited or specific power of attorney. You can do anything. You can handle anything for me, right? And it needs to spell out all those things and reference the statute. Why is it durable? There's 5 different ways to say durable, but I'm from Cleveland County, so you have to forgive me. Durable, yeah. Why is it durable? What's the durability clause? What is that? You know? Anybody? It survives incapacity, incompetency, mental disability, or lapse of time. It survives those things. It has to have that clause there. If not, it does not survive that. So when you need it, or when your family needs it, it's no good. So you want to spell that out in the document. What's another requirement? Recording. Make sure it's recorded at the local register of deeds. Okay? Or else, once someone is incompetent or incapacitated, it's no good. You can report it at that time. We generally like to record them ahead of time Because I don't know. I don't know if you're going to lose the thing. I don't know if the family member is going to be able to find it. But if it's recorded at the Register of Deeds, it's on record. And a copy is just as good as the original for a power of attorney by statute in North Carolina. Yes, ma'am.
If you have the original, does it not have to be recorded if the person that gets your power of attorney?
Not by statute, it would not have to be. And you'd be surprised how many people do not do it, okay? It doesn't have to be until someone's incapacitated or incompetent. But there's many reasons why I might want you to do something with me, for me. For instance, when I was in the military, I used to be in the Navy, okay? When I was in the military, on a regular basis, I would give my wife a power of attorney to do something. I might make it specific, or I might just give her a general one so she could go handle a personal business while I was out of the country. But I wasn't incompetent or incapacitated. So it doesn't have to be recorded in that instance. But after I'm incompetent or incapacitated, right? After I have that stroke or something, then by statute it has to be recorded at that point. But try using one at a bank without it being recorded. A bank's going to always require that just as a safeguard, in my experience.
I'm just wondering because I don't have my recording.
Yeah, maybe you want to record that, in my opinion. Unless you're holding on to it for some reason because you don't want somebody to know about it. And then I think there's a problem too. I can draft springing powers of attorneys. So you can go on about each one of these. They're not as simple as they seem. Springing powers of attorneys mean they only have power, the attorney in fact, the person I appoint, my agent only has power when I'm verified by say 1 or 2 doctors. I can decide in the document that I'm incompetent or incapacitated. Why might I want to do that? Correct. You don't, and really to translate that or to take that a step further, it's because you don't trust the person you're appointing as your attorney in fact. That's why that is. So if you don't trust them, you shouldn't appoint them. Because if they're going to rip you off while you are competent, they're going to certainly rip you off after you're not competent. So don't appoint that person. That's why I'm not a huge fan of springing powers of attorney. It don't make sense to me. I mean, if I'm worried that somebody's going to run off with my money, I'm not going to appoint them. So you want to only be careful and only appoint someone you trust. Healthcare power of attorney. You know what those are? Healthcare power of attorney. Your agent, your healthcare agent, right? You tell me, what's a healthcare power of attorney? Someone else. Purple shirt. What's your name?
It's purple shirt or jacket.
Purple
My
jacket.
name's Cindy.
Sandy?
Yeah, Cindy. Yeah.
What's a healthcare power of attorney?
Somebody can make healthcare decisions for you if you can't.
Very good. And only when you can. I couldn't agree more. Why might that be important?
Well, I don't know, like if you had surgery and then you didn't make it out or
Sure.
whatever.
Yeah, and so if I've had surgery and let's say I'm a single man, I've had surgery, I've got kids, one of them's taking care of me for years. They know my wishes, they know what I want, but his brother from Boise comes in, the sister from Sacramento, they have a different idea. And they're all clamoring over dad and what should happen, and they feel guilty because they hadn't seen me in 20 years, and but I'm laying up here on life support, and it might be good for me if I might want him to go ahead and let me go, if I was competent and could say that. But who's the doctor supposed to listen to? The sister from Sacramento, the brother from Boise, or the son that their sibling that had been taking care of me for 20 years. It's a tough choice for a medical professional to make, a staff member or administration or staff to deal with, even in an emergency healthcare situation or a long-term care situation, right? So healthcare powers of attorneys are extremely important. I call it appointing a quarterback to huddle up with a family and speak one voice, to the doctor, the staff, the administration, and then go back and report to the family. So that's extremely important as well. And someone that you trust and that knows your wishes. And sorry, I just wanted to bring in other people, right? Thank you. Very good answer. Thank you. And living will. Horribly misnamed. It's something an attorney would absolutely do is name that a living will, because it's not about passing property like a will, and it's not really about living, right? It's about a declaration for a desire for a natural death. If I'm terminally incurable, brain death has occurred, in that situation and I'm being maintained on respirators, is it okay to let me go? And some people feel very strongly about that on both sides, of that issue. Yes, ma'am.
How is that different from healthcare power of attorney?
Oh, okay. So the healthcare power of attorney, I'll tell you exactly. I have 6 children. My wife and I have 6 children. Okay, all with the same lady. All right. So you know what? I love them to death, and they're sweet. I can tell you right now which one of those I'd make my healthcare power of attorney. My wife first, and that's another good thing you brought up there, is should I have somebody behind the first person? If I'm playing a basketball game and I got 5 kids playing and one of them fouls out, should I have somebody on the bench to come in? Absolutely. Or else that document's no good. So you want to have, go 2 or 3 deep off the bench with who you name so those documents last you for the rest of your life. The difference between a living will and a healthcare power of attorney is I'm going to appoint you to make my healthcare decisions for me, right? Or I'm going to appoint one of my 6 children, okay? But I might not want to, there's a couple of reasons why the living will is good. I might not want to put the guilt-ridden decision. Do you think it'd affect them if they had to pull Dad's plug? I'll just ask it that way. It depends on if they like me or not. That's a good one. She's feisty. I like that. Purple jacket, not purple shirt. Okay, so yes, very good answer. Yes. So yes, depending, but it would affect them. It could affect them. Many of you might have been through that situation already with family members. You carry it with you. I can make that decision myself because I want to be responsible for it, and I don't want to place it on my children. That's one reason you might want to do it. Another reason is that I might have had a family, I might have seen that situation or experienced that with family, and it turned out badly, right? Or, and I want to make sure that if I'm in that situation, I don't linger on indefinitely. So I want to appoint someone I trust to make healthcare decisions for me, and I want to have a living will that releases the hospital and doctors from liability for letting me go and discontinuing life-saving means. And also, as a really more to me of a reassurance to the family and everyone else of what my wishes are. And again, I have people who feel strongly about that on both sides of that issue, and that's okay. It's a very personal decision. Okay. Did I answer your question? What was your name, ma'am? March. Thank you, March. Yes, ma'am. That's why you have a living will. Yes, sir.
I don't want to be kept alive any longer than I'm living.
That's correct. That's correct. Yes, ma'am.
Do those documents need to be registered, or are they registered?
No, they don't. And I think I didn't write the laws on that, but I think the reason there's a higher burden. 2 witnesses and a notary on a healthcare power of attorney, a general durable power of attorney, just a notary. That's one reason I can think of. Plus, so there's probably other reasons. Yes.
If you have a living will and say you want plugs pulled, whatever, you don't want to live, but you don't have a healthcare power of attorney.
Yes.
And your family don't want to pull the plug.
Yeah, I can tell you what happens in that situation. Do you think it would be a good move for the hospital to honor the living will and risk a lawsuit from the family who's angry and doesn't want the plug pulled? Would that be, which way you think the hospital is going to err there? What, if you were their attorney, what would you tell the hospital to do?
Do whatever the family wants.
Do whatever the family wants. I agree with that. That's why it's important to work those things out ahead of time. They're not going to go ahead and do that and create a lawsuit, right? To be argued over. And then a will. Oh, I forgot. Lonely wills. Wills have been passing property for hundreds of years, doing a great job of it. The problem is now, that situation that we talked about, 70% of seniors over 65 are going to need some type of long-term care, and that the place where Medicaid, if they're activated, to come in and pay, and it runs up a tab, and they try to collect, where do they collect it? When the property's passed through the will. I look at the will as an insurance policy. That's all. It's so easy to set everything up to pass outside of probate now. Did you know you can go to your bank and place beneficiaries on there now, on checking, savings, and money market accounts? It's called a payable on death beneficiary. Doesn't mean that the kids have any right to your bank account. any more than they have right to control your insurance policy where they're the beneficiary. But they get it if you pass away, and all they have to show is a death certificate and proof of who they are. So that's very nice for to structure everything you can as economically as possible to pass outside of probate. There's a lot of reasons you want to avoid probate and additional liens. It just takes a long time. Plus you have to deal with stinky attorneys and stuff like that, right? So, or clerks. We love clerks. We deal with clerks all the time. I've got a former clerk of court of accounting in North Carolina that runs our probate department. So there are a lot of different strategies to protect hard-earned money and property. And I'll back off of just the Medicaid crisis planning title you see up there. It's really just planning for aging and life. Like I said, there may be a veterans benefit that we could add. Veterans aid and attendance. The situation I see a lot is the spouse of a deceased veteran will be in assisted living care and will have a shortfall. Well, maybe her income is between $1,000 and $1,500. She has some savings, and the facility care is $2,500, $2,750. So she has a shortfall. A lot of time, activating a veteran's pension benefit will add enough private income there so that she can actually make money or have an overflow of money, private income, while in assisted living. And that's the way to go there. Because remember, assisted living, there's a higher bar to qualify for Medicaid, especially from an income perspective. So some people are just, by default, eliminated because of their income, because they're $1 overall income. So that could be a situation. Maximum recovery for veterans aid and attendance pension benefits, and this would be 2 married veterans, is around $34,000 a year. Minimum for spouse of a deceased veteran is around $14,000 a year to add to their income. And I can do a whole seminar on veterans aid and attendance pension benefits and how to qualify and who qualifies. But to sum it up, veteran or spouse of a veteran or spouse of a deceased veteran who spent 90 consecutive days in the military, 1 day of that being during a wartime event as designated by the Department of Veterans Affairs. And then there's some income and asset qualifications. But just like Medicaid, I really enjoy qualifying people for benefits, regardless of their income and assets. And there are simple, straightforward ways to do that, okay? But in the Medicaid situation, or just a normal looking at healthcare options situation, protecting property, if I'm protecting it ahead of time, I might want to do some deed planning and protection, life estate deeds on properties that aren't the home, ladybird deed on the home. I could also use a trust. Trusts are very similar to water bottles. So a trust, if I built a trust for you or for your family member or for someone you know, we would build the bottle. And then they could fund it and place things inside of the bottle, okay? They could place money inside. They could place homes inside. They could place property inside. People, a lot of times, even attorneys, don't realize that a revocable living trust is absolutely zero protection against Medicaid, the Medicaid planning situation. Because the top's open. In a revocable living trust, or a lifetime trust, or a family trust, those generic trusts, which we draft those, sometimes those are proper for people, depending on assets. The more assets you have, the more it makes sense to leave them within your reach easily. So, I could put things in here, and I can pull them out because the top's open. If it's my revocable living trust, I can revoke it, right? I can throw it away. So the government, the Medicaid system, would deem that I'm still in control of it. So I've in no way acted to separate myself from this property, okay? So those trusts don't work. They just have no effect. They have effect of you know, if I hit somebody and my car insurance doesn't cover the damages and they come after me, it may be protected against that attack, but not against the Medicaid situation where you needed long-term care. But a revocable trust, we have a couple. We have a Veterans Asset Protection Trust, specifically we draft, and a Medicaid Asset Protection Trust. We put the top on. So, and not really, because
You can still put money in it, okay?
you can still put money in it, but you can't take anything out of it. The senior could, right? So we would need to be really aware of how much money we put in it. We wouldn't want to leave the senior without plenty of access to capital or funds. Might make sense to put the house in there. Might make sense to put vacation properties in there, or other land in there, or businesses in there. Commercial property. Because the clock starts ticking, okay? That's what it does. It starts the look-back clock ticking from the time we put it in there. This has a separate tax ID number, and it's its own separate person. And if I wanted, if the senior wanted to sell property in here, they could. The trustee could. And the money stays in here within this controlled environment. And it doesn't, because if I have a deed on a property that's protecting the property, and it's all protected. I did a ladybird deed, but then, I sold my house just because I wanted to. Then all of a sudden I have, maybe couple $100,000 in cash that's a problem. So what do we do with that? So I'm creating a problem within this protected environment. It can be bought, sold, and new properties and things can happen here. But I have to have a third-party trustee, which can be done by a company or it can be done by a trusted family member. How am I doing on time? How am I doing on time? Okay. 5 minutes, 10 minutes? So, trust can be used, deed protection can be used, protect liquid assets. Could use the trust, absolutely, to protect part of those. Could use gifting, like we talked about, just gifting the property. Could do gifting. But again, if it's not done, when am I going to have my stroke? That's the problem. I don't know. So it's always, the older I get, the more dangerous it is to engage in gifting strategies. I can tell you, if the person's married, over the $119,220 max that Medicaid allows for a spouse, we can use tools such as Medicaid compliant annuities to transfer that money quickly over to the healthy spouse. It's called the community spouse, turning it into income instead of an asset. So we save 100% for all monies and qualify that person for Medicaid, for liquid assets. If it's a single person and I'm planning with a child and that person is coherent, they consent, that's just what they want, then we can gift out then. We can do gifting in that emergency situation, and then we pre-calculate the penalty it creates and use a Medicaid compliant annuity to pay through the penalty period. So there are multiple ways, plan ahead or in a crisis, to save money whether you're single or married for liquid assets. And then I had something about the qualification, 3 and 5 year look back, and under reserve of $2,000. The person that's applying for the benefit for Medicaid for long-term care can only have $2,000 in their name, period, and they have to get there under the Medicaid rules. If you mess it up, feel the pain. You'll go to Medicaid jail. All that means is you're going to be in a penalty period, right, where they're not going to pay a length of time that's equal to the amount of that gift. So then you have to serve that penalty, which forces the kids or whoever got it to give it back or to pay for care during that time period. So, any questions on any of that? I put a little piece together on Ladybird deeds. I feel like we've talked those to death. That's Ladybird Johnson. I know you all know that. And who they're nicknamed after. Not accountable asset transfer for Medicaid planning, beats the 5 year look back period or 3 year, passes property outside of the will and estate, and passes directly to loved ones. Or you could pass it to somebody you don't love too. It's just up to you. We've covered veterans aid and attendance, great benefit. Many veterans don't know about it. They just don't know about it. I've met with someone who should have gotten it for 20 years and had been caring for her husband at home. And she didn't know about it. And I had to convince her that it was real. And now she has it. But she let about $250,000 go by that she could have had if she'd applied for it 20 years ago. So pension benefits for veterans aid and attendance are really, really nice for veterans. And saving the farm. What I do is about helping people, as I'm sure what you do is about helping people. I hope that you'll find a use for that book, either for yourself, your family, or a client, or a friend, okay? Or a loved one. So let me know if you need any more. I will get them to you. I want everyone to know that there are options out there. I wanted to go because I just kind of like to fight. I wanted to fight for the underdog. That's what I wanted to do. And it's really weird. I love doing that in the courtroom, but I wound up just going deep down the rabbit hole quite a few years ago of elder law and asset protection. I always did it, but not to this level until the last probably 5-6 years. And I still am fighting for the underdog. That's exactly why I'm doing it and what I do it for. And we enjoy working with the state and working with social services all over North Carolina. And anyway, that's why I wrote that book. We're based in Shelby, North Carolina. I say it's kind of centrally located between Charlotte and Asheville, easy access to Morganton, Hickory area. And just like the doctor on Little House on the Prairie, I make house calls all the time. I go to the client, and that's part of the job. We have signing teams that go out on location on a regular basis. And again, this is all we do. If you get a speeding ticket going home, I'm sorry, I hate that. I know you have great attorneys here in Morganton that can take care of your speeding ticket, okay? Don't get drive slow. I won't do it. I'm the one who doesn't need to get a speeding ticket. So questions. Does anyone else have any questions about what we covered? We covered a lot of ground. And it's hard for me to gauge sometimes because I do it all the time.
Are you licensed in South Carolina?
I am not. And what I do is I work with very good elder law and estate planning attorneys in South Carolina. They're part of the Elder Council Network. Art McQueen in Spartanburg is excellent. We have others we work with in South Carolina as well. If you will let me know where you live and your email address and phone number, whatever, I will get you a short list of attorneys that you should go see, okay? That will do the same thing but under South Carolina law. I don't have any aspirations in taking another Morristown anywhere. I'm too far down, I don't have a verse, so. I might partner up with a South Carolina attorney one of these days. How about that?
You have to have a lawyer that practices elder law to get that Lady Bird deed, or could you go to just a regular old judge?
That's a great question, okay? And, I used to be a regular old Joe, and I would have done my best to do that for you. I will tell you from my experience, okay? I would also ask you if you would go to your family doctor to have heart surgery or brain surgery. Probably not. They know what the brain looks like. They know about it, but they'd refer you to someone who did that. Hopefully that's what your general practitioner would do in that situation. They may do a good job for you. I just can't tell you that, okay? I can only tell you that for me, if I need a lawyer in a specific area, and sometimes I do, or for a client, I go to an attorney who just does that all the time. Okay? I mean, just think about, you just want somebody who really does what you need, okay? If you got a criminal case to be handled, and I know you don't, but somebody, then I'm going to go to a criminal law attorney. It depends on what results I want, I think. And I just think your outcome or your chances improve if you get somebody that does it all the time. I never realized, and you might have experienced this in your careers, that, and this is one of the hardest things for me to do, but once I closed off doing all these other areas of law and just focused on one thing, It was like putting it under a microscope. You can see the whole world under there. It's a big area to play around in. And it's one of the things that did the most for my career ever. Yes?
The trust is already put in place, and if it changed, or do we have another attorney look at it?
Yes, I review trusts on a regular basis. I'm sure other attorneys that know about trusts can look at those as well. They can easily answer your questions, such as, is this revocable? Is it irrevocable? You'd be surprised how many trusts I look at that are unfunded, that nobody ever really put anything. Yeah, but it says on this sheet that it's got these properties in it, but never took a deed and actually transferred it to the name of the trust, or transferred or set up bank accounts in the name of the trust. See, funding is a separate thing. But an attorney who does it for you should walk you through that and help. Yeah. Yes, the answer is yes. Any other questions? With that, thank you very much. Thank you for the very, very nice introduction. Thank you very much for allowing me to come today. And let me know if I can ever be of service. Yes, ma'am. One more question.
Oh, no.
Oh, you'd like it? Yes, absolutely. Yes.
First of all, thank all of you for coming.